Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome to Living Overseas on a Dime. Today we're talking about retiring in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Yeah.
And we call it the Straight Talk because we're going to give you our opinions of the pros and cons for living in Puerto Vallarta. Now remember, this is 100% our opinion. So you know what? Some people may have differing opinions, but this is just based on our experience living and traveling there over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. We love Puerto Vallarta.
We do. Don't take any of the possible cons from this, saying that we don't love Puerto Vallarta.
We really do. It's got a special place in our heart. We went to Puerto Vallarta the first time we went to Mexico, and we've been back 4
times. I think. Yeah.
And people we've talked to have come back every year. They keep coming back, and there's a reason why. It's a beautiful place.
Some people for decades, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just jump straight into the pros and the cons here. We're going to start out with the pros.
Easily accessible. Okay, we love it. Coming from Winnipeg or Canada or the States, you can get a lot of direct flights.
Yeah.
We've never had a stopover ever from where we are, and usually you do have a stopover, but we don't. It's an easy flight, usually a direct flight, and it's not far, maybe 2 hours from the States, 4 hours from Canada, so that is great.
Yeah, and you know what? If you have anything back in your original country where you need to go deal with stuff, even illness, if you got to go back to your country, if you still have health insurance there or whatever, it makes it a quick, direct flight to get back to your original home.
And just for visiting family, right? Lots of people we talk to who have retired there love it because they can just take a quick flight back and go visit family once or twice a year, and they love it. Or even better, if you're retired in Puerto Vallarta, trust me, a lot of your family members will come and visit.
Yeah, true
it's
enough.
Nice and close, and it's beautiful. It's a win-win, right?
And it also makes, if you want to do the snowbird lifestyle, it's something that's very possible where you do, say, 5 months in Puerto Vallarta and then fly back and maintain a place to live in Canada or the U.S., where you go back for the summer.
Yes.
And you know what? That's a very doable lifestyle that many people do. Okay, so the next pro that we're going to talk about is how physically beautiful Puerto Vallarta is, really. Like, the Bay of Banderas is a special place. It's this giant U-shaped bay where it's surrounded by the mountains, and it's just absolutely stunning. And you know what? Like, you have to kind of experience it to see it, to really understand how nice it is. And it's almost like it brings a sense of peace, really. Like,
well, I think what we love about it too is you've got the water, you've got the ocean, and then you're surrounded by the lush green mountains.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
I thought this was very a good comparison. Lots of people compare it to Rio because you've got those kind of softer green covered tree mountains, and it's absolutely stunning. So I mean, it really is a beautiful place.
Yeah, and you can walk straight down the Malecon and enjoy all of that. It's not super long walk, but it's 1 or 2 kilometers where you can walk. You can also keep walking down the beach, and it's just a really enjoyable place to walk and enjoy nature.
And what we love is there's no traffic. There's no car traffic right beside the Malecon. It's quite separated in some parts, but other parts there's no traffic right beside it. So it's quite nice that way. And the sunsets.
Oh yes, the sunsets. Don't miss the sunsets. It's a west-facing bay, so they are just gorgeous.
Yes, the sunsets will just take your breath away. Yeah. So the next pro is how easy it is to get groceries. There's Walmart's there. There's Costco's there. We've never been to the Costco,
which is funny.
But everyone says it's good. Lots of import stores. If you're looking for Western products, you can pretty much find anything you need. So it's very easy to go grocery shopping there and find the creature comforts of home if you want.
And it's not necessarily just groceries. Like, even probably they'll have your brand of deodorant or toothpaste, things along those lines that you maybe don't think are a big deal until you're not living in your home country anymore, and you're like, you know what, my skin has problems with this other thing. Like, some people get what they call a mule to bring stuff down every 6 months when family members come. But you know what? It's nice just to be able to go to Walmart or Costco and pick that up without much issue. The next pro, and this is a big pro for Puerto Vallarta, is the restaurants there. There is a massive variety of different types of cuisines and just delicious food in Puerto Vallarta. And you know what? This encompasses all sorts of different price points. You can go to Michelin star restaurants and spend a huge pile of money. You can go to more middle level restaurants and spend, a middle amount of money, or you can kind of go to the more family run mom and pop shops where they have the really good Mexican food for probably 100 pesos. And those were often our favorite places to eat, because there is great food at those places where they just have like a lunch meal and they come with a drink and a soup. And there's really great Mexican food in Puerto Vallarta.
In fact, now that we've traveled in a bunch of places in Mexico, for us, we always compare it to Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah,
and
funny.
I don't know if it's because it was the first place we've been to,
Yeah.
but really the quality of food is just fantastic.
Yeah.
You can get your shrimp tacos for 40 pesos. You can get your meal for 100 pesos and you're stuffed by the end of it. If you want high end, you can go high end. And we're realizing just a good variety too.
Yeah.
You can get East Indian food there. You can get Japanese there.
Great Thai food.
Great Thai
all sorts
food.
of variety.
Hummus, whatever you want. It's not an issue. So that is great. You're not gonna run out of different options.
Yeah, and you know what? Some people are like, "Oh, well, you're in Mexico, you should eat Mexican food." Well, yeah, of course,
we do.
Of course,
Yeah.
We love Mexican food as
Yeah.
much as anyone else. But sometimes you just want something
Mix
a
it
bit
up.
different. You might want some Thai. You might want some Japanese. Just different food. It's variety is the spice of life.
Yeah. So
It's-
the food, the restaurants, fantastic. So the next point we're going to talk about is that English is widely used there. So if you've never been to Mexico and you've always wanted to go, we'd recommend Puerto Vallarta just because not everybody speaks English. But if you go to a store, you can use basic English and
Yeah.
they'll probably understand what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you know what? And most of the major things you need to get done, there'll be someone around who speaks English.
Yeah.
And Google Translate can work in a pinch, but it's nice to have people understand you if you're still working on your Spanish. That doesn't mean that Spanish isn't useful there, because of course people speak Spanish in Puerto Vallarta.
course.
But if you're just starting out and just learning some Spanish, no need to worry, and you can definitely get by on English there.
Yes.
Okay, so another point that is very important to some people is how large an LGBTQ community there is in Puerto Vallarta. It's unique for Puerto Vallarta to have a community that is so welcoming of that community. And you know what? It's kind of a cool thing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's part of Puerto Vallarta that we really enjoy. It's really nice to see in Puerto Vallarta that LGBTQ people who in some places are not welcomed, they're welcomed with open arms.
Yeah.
Now, the next point, which is kind of segueing into the cons, is both a pro and a con, and that is the large expat community in Puerto Vallarta. Now, this is really great in certain ways, especially if you're, say, maybe newly retired, or you want to have a group of expats around, peers that you can talk to and make friends, basically, right? Now, that being said, a couple things. First of all, most of the expats in Puerto Vallarta are from the United States or Canada. There are some others, but in our experience, I'd say like 90% of expats were from the United States and Canada. As well, most of them are of an older retiree age, especially in the Romantic Zone or Centro. Now, that being said, that is changing a bit. We did meet some digital nomad types and some nomad families. Jenny was communicating a bit with the homeschool group on Facebook. So there are some people that are of a younger demographic who are moving to Puerto Vallarta as well.
You are seeing more expats going there with younger families as well. So it is changing.
Yeah. Now, that being said, if you're in your 60s and looking for a great place to retire, Puerto Vallarta is fantastic. And especially if you're single. There's lots of single people, single retirees. And if you're looking to get out and meet some people, it's a great place.
Yes. So the next topic is rent. Now, that can be a pro or a con. definitely rent is going up, like everywhere else in the world right
Yeah.
now. But there's a reason why. Puerto Vallarta is beautiful. Lots of people like it. You've got ocean, you've got mountains, great food. So a lot of people are coming there. A lot of people are buying there, not just renting, buying as
Yeah.
well, right? So, the sky's the limit. You can pay as much as you want for rent and get a really fancy
Or
place.
you also can get, this is on the pro side here, you can get, there's a large variety of rental prices. You can even get stuff below 15,000 pesos or even below 10,000 pesos.
Depending where you want to live.
Exactly. And depending on your lifestyle. So if you're willing to do a little bit of a more local lifestyle, maybe only aircon in the bedroom or no aircon if you really can manage,
In
which
the
is
summer?
pretty darn hard. But if you were willing to go no aircon, you could probably get something for between 5,000 and 7,000
Actually, it's funny
pesos.
because we were looking, for just researching different areas. We're like, oh, this is such a great deal. And then we're looking, oh, no aircon.
aircon, yeah.
So if you're looking for places and it seems too good to be true and really cheap, usually there won't be aircon. So really look at that. But yeah, there's price points for every budget.
Yeah.
Will you get Ocean View and Romantic Zone for a
No.
cheaper price? No way.
No way. But
But
10 to 15,000 pesos, you can probably
find
find something within, 3 to 5 blocks of the beach, and it'll likely have some aircon. Won't be huge,
Yeah.
but you know what? Part of living in a new place is that you have to adapt your expectations.
and outdoor lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
You're walking on the Millicon, you're socializing, you're going out. You're not going to be stuck in your house. Well, maybe right in August,
Yeah.
you'll be hiding inside with your aircon, but the rest of the year, probably not, right?
Okay, so now we'll start to go into the cons of retiring in Puerto Vallarta. The first one, which has become a little bit of a thing for us, is that it's very much a tourist town. Now, that can be a pro or a con depending on what you're looking for, but in a few of the neighborhoods, there's definitely a bit of a party vibe, especially Romantic Zone and Centro and some other areas, Marina a little bit. But you know what? If that's what you want and you want to go out and have some drinks with friends and whatnot, it's a good time. But I know every time you see new people moving to Puerto Vallarta, they'll start to go, what are those bangs at night on Facebook? Well, that's the pirate boat shooting off its cannons every night. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? It is a little bit noisy. It's Mexico, so Mexico's noisy. But Puerto Vallarta has a little bit more going on even than your average Mexican place.
It's true.
And there's a lot of action. So if you're expecting something really quiet, you're going to have to move a bit away from those areas into the more residential parts of Puerto Vallarta, which do exist, so you can find it.
They do.
It's just something to be aware of in relation to the kind of more popular neighborhoods like Zona Romantica and Centro.
Yeah. So, kind of another con for us is the population. It's not a huge city.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, that's the charm of it, right? We're finding we like bigger cities.
Yeah.
Like you're looking for a big symphony. PV is not going to have it. Now, that being said, because of the size of the town, there's always live music. There's always
there's
things at
smaller venues,
restaurants,
yeah.
which is more intimate. And I think that's what people like about PV. For us, it's almost too small of a city.
Something to think about is like it doesn't really have any large musical concerts like Jenny said symphony, but how about like bands or big artists coming in? There's not really much like that. There's also, I think they have a small football team, but it's not like going to a city like Guadalajara or Mexico City where they have a large stadium and all sorts of sporting events can occur there.
Right. That being said, the city does have a great vibe.
Oh yeah, and it's not small.
No.
It's not a little tiny town. Like
No.
it's still a decent size. So it's not like you can't get the things you want there. You absolutely can.
For sure.
So the next con in Puerto Vallarta is that it doesn't really have fantastic transportation systems. And what we mean by that is there's no metro. There are buses, and for the most part, getting around town, you're going to be taking the buses. Some of them are newer and air conditioned, some not so much, especially if you're going out to Sayulita or out to Conchas Chinas. But you know what? The buses are cheap, and it's relatively easy. There's also taxis, which are kind of a mixed bag. We've had a couple not great experiences. One taxi driver almost started to fight with another guy. But you know what? For the most part, the taxis are okay, but you can get ripped off.
Yes.
So that's something where make sure if you're taking a taxi, get the price ahead of time in Spanish, confirm it on your phone, do what you got to do, but just be careful because you know what, like sometimes cabbies are a little bit unscrupulous.
So another con for us is that we find the beaches there not very swimmable.
Yeah, they're not.
The waves are pretty big. If you go first thing in the morning, a lot of times it's not, but we're not early risers.
Yeah,
like
no.
we don't get up at 7 in the morning. So if you're an early riser and you get down to the beach, it's usually pretty calm, but the later on in the day,
Yeah.
it'll get more wavy.
So yeah, even that's not guaranteed. It depends on the tidal charts and when the tide is in
Yes.
and when the tide is out.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, sadly, generally once a year someone dies swimming there. So it's something to be very careful. Pay attention to the flags, pay attention, and just use common sense. Don't go in if it looks too wavy. We've even seen people who are just kind of wave jumping just get battered, smashed into rocks and stuff. Luckily they were okay, but just be careful and be aware of that, especially if you're bringing any kids down there.
Yeah.
Another con is, and this is mostly for us personally, there's not a lot of hiking around Puerto Vallarta. There is some. There are a few trails around, and there's not really in the city itself a ton of green space. Now, that being said, there is the Bay of Banderas and the Malecon where you can walk around without much issue, and you can quickly get to the edge of town where there are a few hiking trails. But really, and maybe this is one of the things we love about, say, a place like Mexico City that has fantastic parks, great green spaces, and lots of things you can do. But really, Puerto Vallarta is a little bit lacking.
So the next point is weather. Now, again, this can be a pro or a con.
Yeah, it's definitely both.
Yeah. So we've always gone usually February to Puerto Vallarta, and it's perfect
it's
weather.
beautiful.
You know, even at night, sometimes we still have to wear a sweater.
Yeah.
And then during the day, 25 degrees.
Mid to high 20s, nighttime high teens,
Not
low 20s.
much humidity. It's just beautiful. In the summer, it starts to get really, really hot. You've got really bad humidity, and it's hot. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it also, there's occasional hurricanes, like they had a couple years ago that was quite devastating. So, you need to be comfortable with lots of rain. There's a lot of rain in the summer, and it's hot and humid. So it's just something, it's not at all like the winter time. So it's something to be really aware of.
Yeah.
So the final con, which we kind of mentioned, I think Jenny mentioned it in the pros, is the rent. If you're expecting a really nice Western style condo for $1,000 a month, you're not going to find it. Now, if you are okay going with a more Mexican style, you might find that. But something that's happened as Mexico and Puerto Vallarta in particular has become more popular is that rents are going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And who knows, after the inflation in this last year, where the ceiling is. Like, it could continue to skyrocket, which is kind of sad because I think it's a place a lot of people are thinking about retiring, and a place that they would love to retire. So hopefully it kind of slows down at some point and there's a ceiling in sight.
So would we retire there? That is the big question.
Yeah, would we retire in Puerto Vallarta?
Well, I think we can both say it's one of our favorite places
we love
in
Puerto
Mexico.
Vallarta.
We love Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
It's got a special place in our heart. The food's great, absolutely beautiful. We love the Malecon, love the ocean views. I mean, everything about PV.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. If we weren't stating it outright.
Yeah.
We love Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta has a special place in our heart. There's something magical about the place that I don't know how to explain it. There's just something that keeps drawing us back there again and again and again.
And I think people would agree with us, right? It's just beautiful. The food's great.
Yeah.
The weather's great. The people are super friendly, and despite it being a touristy place, Mexican people still live there.
Yeah, it's
a normal city,
exactly.
right?
It's still a living, working place. It's not just a tourist town where no one lives there.
Exactly. For us, the problem is it's just too expensive.
Well, and also at this point in our life, we just kind of want a bigger city, and we're not quite at retire point. We're just kind of trying to do the financially independent thing and see how life goes right now. So it will at some point in the future we end up retiring there. Maybe. We do love it there. So it's something that could happen 5-10 years down the line. Would we go there right now? Not at this point. Like maybe if we don't find anywhere else that fits all the bills like Puerto
True.
Vallarta does.
True.
Because Puerto Vallarta sure does check a lot of boxes.
It really does. I wish it was a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
It would be higher on our list, but I'd say if you are looking for a beautiful place to retire, you don't mind that it's a mid-range city, we'd highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And if you've never been,
Go.
try it.
Go.
Yeah. I mean, it might not have the crystal clear blue water that, say, Cancun has, but the people are great.
Yeah, and there's a magic to Puerto Vallarta that we haven't found anywhere else.
Yes.
So, you know what? Who knows? Maybe it is home. I don't know. We'll just see in the future where our travels bring us.
So, you know what? I'd say drop a comment below on why you love PV,
Yeah.
what you think of PV, because I'm sure we're not the only ones. We know we're not the only ones who love it. So,
Yeah, and if we've forgotten anything in our discussion, definitely comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe, like, and you know what, everyone? Take care and happy travels.
happy travels.